again. One or two of you out there, I'm sure. Welcome to part 3 of the rebuild of the custom work 71 Camaro. Making slow progress on this thing. Some of the stuff is kind of tedious, takes a while to do, and maybe want to kind of walk you through some of the stuff that we've done and how we did it. Maybe give you some ideas to do on your project, and we'll get started with that. Okay, so one of the things that we came up with here is what we refer to as CAD, or cardboard aided design. And we've decided that the car really doesn't need a heater in it. It's California, and even on the street it doesn't get very cold. At some point I've considered maybe putting an electric heater in the car, but nonetheless. So one of the things that we did was we needed to make a panel to block off the heater area. And so we already had a panel made that we used on Orange Crush that sort of kind of came in through here and took up this area, but we wanted to block off the blower motor as well. So what we did is we created a panel, and then I have another cardboard sheet that I made off of this that I drew out where I wanted to bead roll it, and then what you do is you take that panel, and I'll show you on another panel how we mark the bead rolls and all that stuff. But apparently I lost all the video and the pictures of this one, so this part's already done here. And so we've got this in, and it's all spot welded in, and we'll go and we'll seam seal all around it, and then it'll get painted hot rod black, and the panel will disappear like it's always been there. Be pretty cool. So another thing that we decided to do was build a closeout panel here for the wiper cowl area. We're not going to put the wiper stuff back in the car, but I also didn't want to permanently attach it, just in case that for some reason we wanted to put the wipers back in the car. So I made this template, and as you can see, it's got cutouts in it. And what I'll show you in just a second here is why we cut those areas out. So we're going to attach this thing, and it's going to take some forming on the finished panel to get it to fit all the contours in here, but it should be pretty cool. And also we made a panel here for the wiper motor hole, and block that off, and it'll be removable, and it'll actually just attach with the bolts that hold that in place. So anyway, so here's our panels. Here's the wiper block off plate that'll go in here, and this one was kind of tricky. We had to make the beading where the mounting screws weren't going to be. So, but that'll look cool. And then here's the panel that goes over the top. And it's going to take a little bit of finagling and forming to get it to sit how and where exactly we want it to go. But I think we've got the fit and the design pretty well. We'll see how it goes. It's 50 thousandths aluminum, so it shouldn't be too hard to get it to fit right. And I think it's just going to give it a nice clean look. So anyways, one thing that you'll notice on the car is that we've actually got it covered in this plastic. And they have a bunch of different names for it. They call it crash barrier or some sort of stuff. And it's just a plastic film with a fairly light adhesive that hopefully doesn't rip the paint off when you leave it on there too long. So we got it on there because we're going to be painting and grinding and doing all kinds of stuff with this thing. And so we've decided that we're going to try to protect the paint as much as possible. We're doing everything else on the car. I'd rather not have to paint the car either. So, all right, as you can see, the inside of the car is absolutely gutted. We've removed the gauges. All the wiring's going to come out. We're going to rewire the car. The car, we built the cage a long time ago, and it had these removable door bars and crossbar, and then we ended up putting some more cross supports into the car to stiffen it up. But we're going to reconfigure the cage, and we'll show you more on that. But, you know, a lot of this stuff's going to come out. Also, one of the cool things that I did that was really kind of a pain in the butt. See if you can actually see. But we actually made mounts under here on the inside of the firewall. That's where the Holley Dominator ECU is going to mount. And there should be a cool little place for that. All right, so another part of the car, of the project that we're going to be working on, you know, we've covered the underhood, obviously the front suspension and drivetrain change on the car. But one of the things that we're going to do on the rear of the car is change up how the rear suspension is on this thing, and really have never been all that happy with it. This car has had this rear suspension set up in it since 2014, something like that. And so what we've been running in the car is a Speed Tech torque arm. You can see it's this big long piece that mounts under the differential and goes up to a cross member up here. And one of the things that we had to do years ago was we actually made the center part of this cross member actually removable. So if you needed to pull the transmission or service the clutch or do anything, you could without having to take, this thing mounts underneath the body mounts and it's literally impossible to get out. So we cut it up and made it so it comes out. But the problem with the torque arm is what you got is what you got. There's really no adjustment in it. The trailing arms here, adjusting these things up and down doesn't really change anything. Everything's dictated for the most part by the torque arm itself. And we've had just not very good luck with it. I know there's a lot of guys running this thing and I'm not talking crap about it, but car always felt loose on entry and no traction off the corners, so we kind of had the worst of both worlds, so that kind of sucked. So what we've done so far here is took the shocks out and I made these kind of dummy bars to hold the rear end in the location at right height. And if you notice, one of the things that we did was, well, along the way, this is the third torque arm that's been on this thing. The first one, we actually broke it. It actually broke right here. And no, actually it broke right here. And right behind there's a mount here. It broke right here. So you can see they've gusseted it. I think they've added probably about 10 or 15 pounds to the weight of these things to beef them up. And so the next one, it actually bowed in the middle. So they sent me another one that was beefed up. And I think this is their new design. So after we got the torque arm figured out, this thing had a Panhard bar on it, and it had a mount that went up here on the frame, dropped down, and then had a bar that went across that mounted to this here. And our bracket up here broke, and then the shock also mounts right there as well. And we came home from an event, and the thing was kicked out like this. And, you know, I just said, this is enough's enough. This isn't going to work. So end up building this setup. There's a whole 2x3 square rectangle tubing cross member that goes from one side of the frame to the other. It incorporates the shock mounts and double shear. We were able to continue to use the lower links and mounts and stuff. And then we built off the center cross member this Watts link. It's a frame mounted Watts link. You know, a lot of times you'll see this actually mounted to the differential. So there's some benefits to the frame mounted Watts link. That's kind of cool. And so I had to fabricate this bracket and then was able to retain the Watts link bracket, but I had to add all this onto it. And so one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to turn this torque arm into a 3-link. And one of the, the videos you'll see that we'll start doing this here in the near future is we're going to add a third upper link that comes off the top of the housing here, and it's going to run through into the cabin of the car, into the back seat. And hopefully, if everything works out right, we're going to be able to hide it under the back seat. The back seat won't really be useful anyways. It's not really a big deal, but that's sort of kind of what we're looking at doing on the rear suspension of the car. And so one of the things by doing this with the rear suspension of the car, it's going to give us a lot more adjustability as far as, corner entry, drive, and whatever, by changing the anti-squat characteristics, the instant center, and stuff like that. It's worth a shot. And also, I think it's going to take about 25 pounds of weight potentially off of the car with a big torque arm. So it's just something that we've been wanting to do for a while. We've actually built one in the past, and it worked out pretty well. So we're going to try something a little bit new. The first one we built, we mounted the link in the center of the differential, and it ran down the tunnel. This one we're going to offset it. And I guess there's some things for torque steer. If you offset the upper link to the passenger side, it kind of helps with torque steer. So that's kind of where we're at, and that's our update on this stuff here. And I wonder if I think I showed you guys all this stuff. Let's check it out. So we've been working on our inner fenders, and the next step is going to be get these things. Once we get the firewall done and painted, we need to fit these into the car, get these clear coated, and then our front clip's gonna go in the car, and that's gonna be great. Once we get that step to this step, it's gonna be super cool. And right now it doesn't seem like we're making a lot of progress, but we have so many things started and kind of going that all of a sudden we're gonna crest that hill, and all of a sudden a lot of stuff's gonna come together at the same time. So anyways, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave comments too. I want to hear you guys' feedback on stuff. So I appreciate you watching. Thanks.